Hi CC friends, we miss you guys. For those who don't know me, we sat out this year, but my name is Jenna Fant and I've got my helpers here that are going to be helping with Orchestra Day. So without further ado, here's some resources I'll start off by sharing. This is called The Story of the Orchestra, and it comes with a CD, and it's a great way to introduce the orchestra. I have one here called Music. One of my favorite resources, if you have Spotify or something like that, is called Beethoven's Wig. It is so fun. It has several CDs, and they include very famous common classical pieces, but they put silly words to them, and the words include information so you will always remember. So Beethoven's wig is really big, da 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 da. So anyway, so fun. All right, so today, my goal is to introduce the orchestra, but do it in a way that those of you who have done this for years and years will learn something new. So if you hang with me, we will start. First of all, there are different ways to divide up the orchestra families. I'm going to start with the most general way, and then I'll include the other ways. But the most general way is in three basic families. You have strings, which are represented here today. We have wind, and we have percussion. So I'm going to start with the strings, and I am going to remind you of a rule I introduced last year, which was that if you always remember, longer equals lower. This will help you in every instrument family remember something about that instrument. So the smallest string instrument is the violin. Come on, Dottie. Now this is in the orchestra. There are other instruments that are not typically in the orchestra. Come right here, sweetie. That are not typically in the orchestra that may be smaller, but this is a traditional instrument, which Dottie's going to demonstrate. Dottie, can you play the highest note for me, the highest string? All right, play the next string for me. And the next. And the last one. So the other rule about lower instruments is if you look at her strings, the lowest string is the same length as the others, but it is thicker. Every string instrument has different size strings, and it will get the thinner or the smaller, it gets higher. So the tiniest string is the highest. Now, the other rule about string instruments is as you add a finger to a string, you're actually shortening. What you're doing when people put their fingers on the strings is they're shortening the length. So the more fingers you add, the higher the note goes. So Dottie, on your E string, could you play one finger at a time and go up and then go back down and do it slowly? There we go. So the shorter the string gets, the higher the note gets. And the material for a violin is made out of wood. The sound actually vibrates through here, and it reverberates in the chamber inside, and the noise comes out of these, we call them what, Dottie?
F.
They're called F holes, and that's why a violinist always turns her F holes to the audience. So that helps you remember that the strings are actually, when you look at the orchestra, they're always on the left because their F holes will be tilted out towards the audience. So that is how the sound is made on string instruments. I have a smaller violin that's going to come play for us now. Go ahead and sit down, Dot Dot. Oh, I'll show on Hallie's. Come here, Hallie Mae. We have a beginner violin in our house, and she's going to play a couple notes. You want to play a couple notes for us, Hallie? Go ahead. All right, so this is called a bow, and the way that most strings produce noise is by friction. And so the bow goes across the string and creates friction. Now, the way again, talking about lower and longer, thicker and lower, if you look at these little tiny, see this little teeny tiny violin? There are these knobs, we call them pegs. And when we tune an instrument, they're always tuned the same in every country. And when we tune the violin, we turn the knob and the string rolls on the knob, and it makes it either shorter or longer, depending on whether or not you need to make the instrument go a little bit higher or a little bit lower. And then at the very bottom, we have something here called fine tuners. These are teeny tiny knobs, and they make the string only slightly tighter or slightly looser to make